The first one that was brought up was that Ellen White made a prediction that Great Britain would enter the war, England, on the side of the South. And while that was all that was mentioned, there's a great deal more to it. That Great Britain would enter the war, that the war could not be conducted successfully, that in fact it was impossible to conduct it successfully, and if you don't conduct the Civil War successfully, how many nations do you have when you're done? You got 2 of them. Well, Great Britain never did enter the war, and the war was conducted successfully, and we only have 1 nation, and therefore Ellen White was a false prophet. That's a summary of the accusation. You can find these statements yourself in the first volume of the Testimonies. There are 3 chapters there on the Civil War. I'm going to summarize the answer for you. Ellen White worded that paragraph about the whole thing I just said in a very hypothetical situation way. Kind of like 1 Corinthians 15:19 I quoted this morning, that if in this life only we have hope in Christ, we are of all men most miserable. The passage doesn't say that we are of all men most miserable, but if there's no resurrection, we are of all men most miserable. You follow what I'm saying? What she indicated there is that as long as the northern hierarchy in the United States was willing to let slavery continue, that there's no way that they would be blessed in their efforts to conduct the war and to save the Union. And that's true. You can read about our dear Lincoln. Lincoln was very plain that he did not care to help the condition of the slaves if he could save the Union without doing it. Lincoln made that very plain, and a number of his generals also were of the very same mind. They were not interested in abolishing slavery. In fact, in many abolitionist movements in North America, that is, movements that were saying we should abolish slavery, blacks were not allowed to be members because there was such prejudice even in the North. But slightly before Gettysburg, when the battle had gone on much longer than Lincoln expected, Lincoln saw the light that he had not seen before. If Lincoln was here and was resurrected, and you were to ask him, what was your conversion experience? You know, he would talk about the Battle of Gettysburg. Lincoln considered that to be a turning point in his life, in his own policy on this issue. The summary is that when Lincoln changed his policy about slavery and said he was going to abolish it, God changed his policy on how to relate to the Northern administration. And what was in Ellen White's testimony is that the reason Britain had not entered the war is that Britain was afraid that if she did, that she'd be weak and other nations would attack her and take advantage of it, and there'd be a general world war. Well, that is what Britain was thinking, and Britain didn't enter the war. And Lincoln did change his policy, and everything worked out fine and dandy. And there actually is not one false prophecy anywhere in that section. It all happened just as it should have happened, in view of the fact that Lincoln changed his policy.